You're listening to the Wedding Biz Network, the voice of the creative entrepreneur.
Come on, y'all!
Hey everyone, it's Andy Kushner with The Wedding Biz, and this interview is in lieu of a typical episode of The Next Level, and it's a special one with two very special friends in the industry. Before I introduce them, I want to mention that just last Monday, I had on Monty Durham, the former star of TLC's Say Yes to the Dress Atlanta. Always fun having Monty on. So today, I have both David Beahm and his executive director, CHRISTINA Matteucci. David is a super popular event designer based in New York City, working worldwide, and CHRISTINA is crucial to David's business, being, as I mentioned, his executive director, and both have been on the show twice each. David was on episodes 3 and 238, and CHRISTINA was on 188 and 214, and all 4 episodes are so well worth a listen. So enjoy my conversation with David Beahm and CHRISTINA Matteucci. Well, hey, David and CHRISTINA, welcome back to the show. It's so good to have you both.
It's always good to be here and talking with you. Thank you so much.
Hello, friend. So glad to be back.
I love your greetings, both of you. And in the show notes, I'm going to put in there the different episodes that each of you have been on, because you've both been on the show. And I urge everybody listening to go back and listen to the interviews. Matter of fact, David, I think you were on twice, if I recall.
I believe you're right.
Yeah. So I'll put that in the show notes and you all could find it to listen to. So yeah, I wanted to have you back on. And look, at this time, we're recording on November 13th.
Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th. And there's just, obviously, we're in the middle of so much crazy stuff. I mean, the pandemic is just raging now. You know, we've got all the issues after the election and our current president not wanting to concede. I mean, I'm just wondering how each of you are doing. I mean, David, how, just like personally, but, you know, how are you doing with this, and what are you doing to stay grounded in the middle of all this craziness?
Well, you know, happily, I have, as you know, I have the farm, and that really helps me. I can say with 100% certainty, if I hadn't had the farm, I would not be grounded. Nature has always been very important for me to be able to escape into. And so, you know, to be able to sit here at the desk and look out the trees and the birds, and as a reminder, do I have bad days and do I have good days? Absolutely. You know, when the pandemic started, I started doing posting videos to
seen them,
sort of
love them,
encourage people, and there were days I couldn't do them because I couldn't put the face on. But suddenly I have my face back and my voice back because things are looking up. Do I think the winter is going to be it's going to be a challenge for everyone, especially everyone in special events. But I do have faith that at the end of next spring, going into summer, things are going to start loosening up, and we're going to be really looking back with ennui at these days.
Right. Well, David, you know, you talk about, you know, on your farm and just looking out the window. You know, it's interesting you say that. It was just last weekend. I needed to take off and just reconnect. I mean, not just with myself, but like with nature. And so I went on a long, like a 3-hour hike on a mountain, at least what we call a mountain in Maryland. And, and it always immediately reminds me that, okay, all of this stuff, I mean, you know, what's really important here, you know, it helps ground me. What about you, CHRISTINA? I mean, what are you doing to help stay grounded? How are you dealing with all of this, the emotional roller coaster?
Yeah, I mean, like David, good days and bad days. Of course, I think anybody who tells you differently is probably lying. But for me, I've had a very different experience than David because I'm in the heart of Chelsea. I live in the heart of Chelsea in Manhattan. So, you know, I don't have the opportunity to really get out into nature and have those experiences. However, for me, what I've been doing is really taking solace in small things. This year, for the first time, because I'm not going home for the holidays, because I'm heeding the medical experts' recommendations to really not gather for the holidays, I'm staying here in New York. So actually this week, I put up my Christmas tree.
Oh.
It's the first time I've had a Christmas tree in 13 years in New York. And that's a wonderful thing to take solace and comfort and joy. I think I texted David the night I put this, it's a vintage style sort of tinsel tree, and just my heart damn near exploded.
Oh, gosh.
To have those small moments and doing things that, while they're not big, gestures, small gestures. You know, I live in a walk-up style apartment building, nothing fancy, but I'm very close with all of my neighbors, and we really do look out for each other. And I've taken in the last weeks, I love to cook, but I say that I am not a baker. But I've taken to making cupcakes the last couple of weeks, and I share them with my whole building. And the act of just taking care of other people in this time, I feel, is so important.
Yeah, she's been showing me pictures of cupcakes that aren't gluten-free. Thank you so much.
All right.
But David, David mentioned in one of his recent posts about, looking out after the strong ones, looking out after the people that you think are doing fine. And for me, just to be able to bake and to give of myself in a way that feels as though I'm taking care of my community that's immediately around me, that provides succor and makes my heart happy. And that's how I'm really getting through the darker days.
Yeah, I love how you were talking about the little things. It's interesting. I have a really good friend who was saying to me, I mean, this is a different kind of angle on it, that he tries to just look at what's in front of him for the next 2 hours, also. Like, that's just it. Just one step at a time, and to be able, like you say, focus on the little things, but also even time. It's like, try not to get caught up in the big picture and the fear and all of that, and just what's right in front of me. That's helped me a lot.
Yeah, you have to say this is what it is right now, because you can't control it. And certainly all of us in special events are control freaks. We need to control the situation. It's the reason we're good at what we do, is that we have the need to control. And suddenly the universe is going, no, sorry, you can't control this right now. I remember back in March, we were going, okay, come October, we'll have this under control and it will be fine. Well,
not so much.
Here we are.
There's also another aspect. You're just making me think about this with those of us in the industry. I mean, most of us are like type A personality. And like you say, there's controlling in a good way, and being able to be in control of our situation, our environment. Also, so many of us, like I know for me, I've got the music company, music and entertainment, and that's been such a huge part of my identity. Now I'm lucky, I'm fortunate. I happened to start this podcast 3 years ago. So this for me is also very grounding, and I have a sense of identity with it. But when I just think about the other side, like the music side, I'm not getting to do what I have been doing for decades and what I've gotten to be so good at and so passionate about. How are you both dealing with that part, that you're not, I know we've got some micro weddings, some small events going on, but you're not able to really do your thing like you have forever and ever and ever.
Well, and that's where another part of the control, I think, comes in. It's how you control how you react to this. And that is the most important thing. You can flail. I really have been I have been calling and checking on some of my strongs, but we all seem to go down that slippery slope of, oh my God, what are we going to do? Blah, blah. And so I haven't been having that conversation because it doesn't do a whole lot of good right now. We have to look at the facts and figure out how we're going to control our emotions and our approach. You can, like I said, you can flail around or go, here we are. What can I do? I've got to tell you, a really good example is Christina for years going, I can't bake. I can't bake. I'm not a baker. I'm not a baker. And suddenly she's a baker. and you've taken that up and made it work. And you controlled the situation. And I think that is a really good example.
Well, and I think, thank you, David. And I think that, I've heard David for so long say, that the universe shows you the way. Trust in the universe. Let the universe show you where it's leading you. And to some degree, you can bury your head in the sand and or wait for this all to pass. Both of those are viable options. Or you can also look at the opportunity around you and what is available to you. David posting his daily, at the start of this, his messages on Instagram. I don't think David had planned to do that, but he embraced it and said, okay, there's a group of people that need me. Those responding to the need at hand, I think is so important at this time. And the universe shows you where you are needed.
And responding to your gut. I didn't know. I did the first one the day that things started shutting down. I did just a quick, 15-second message, and the response was overwhelming.
That was about, I think, just breathe, right? If I remember correctly.
Well, and just said, we're gonna be okay. We're gonna get through this. And the number of people who said I needed to hear that was really overwhelming. And then Christina was telling me recently that she was talking to a colleague of a colleague who mentioned my name, and this person whom I don't know said, you have to tell me what she said, Christina.
She just was so comforted by David's daily messages. And she lives across the country. She lives, in Santa Barbara. And she was so comforted by David's daily messages. And it really had value to her and meant something to her and was something that she was looking forward to tuning into, whether it be daily or weekly. It mattered to her.
And if I can do that for one person, then yeah.
Well, and we feel so alone in our little bubbles here at home. It's just, I've been on a roller coaster. I have to be reminded several times that I'm not the only one going through this. There's so many. I want to also ask a really tough question and get into this too. So many people in everywhere, but let's stick with our industry, the event industry. We were one of the first to be impacted. We're going to be probably one of the last to fully come back. And so so many of us are just struggling to find ways to bring in income and stay in business, while this thing is going on. How are you both handling that? How are you looking at that aspect of it?
I'll let you start, Christina.
Well, I think we are very, very grateful, thank goodness, to have legacy clients who trust us and have found opportunities for us to work in some capacity, whether it is a small intimate gathering at their home when the numbers were lower back in September and October, or even those micro weddings. They now matter more than ever. Additionally, I think we're very, very lucky to have the holiday installation clientele that we do have. That is a really wonderful gift for all of us.
Can I interrupt?
Sure.
I called up Christina one day and said, we have to write the letter of letters to this client that says, you owe it to New York to decorate this year. They also owe it to us so we can have them as a client.
Yeah.
And it started this weekend, and that's going to be a real savior for us. Having a couple sources of income really makes a difference. I'm sorry I interrupted you, Christina.
No, that's fine. And the other thing, and this actually, Andy, parlays beautifully with what we were discussing before, is just organically people have been coming to me and saying, while we're slow, can I hire you to coach? Can I hire you to coach me on this, that, or the other thing? You've been in the business for so long. That's a lovely thing to do right now. And I'm grateful for those clients. I'm grateful for that work. And it's been all across different fields, not necessarily even hospitality or special events, just business coaching or life coaching. People are coming to me for that kind of work, and being of service in that regard and being able to make some profit on that during these slower times has been a blessing to me.
Yeah, that's wonderful, Christina, that's happening for you. And David, you were talking about legacy clients. I mean, I'm just thinking how maybe those of us who have not heard much from people, I think to reach out to the clients that we've had and to just check in just on a personal basis and just say, how are you doing? I believe that puts us back in their mind. There's a connection, right, that gets reestablished. And I think some business that we don't expect could come in just through that. I mean, not you know what I mean? Not that we should reach out asking for business, but rather just touch base with people. And I think something will happen with that.
Yeah, that's a fine line there, because you don't want it to seem like a sales call. But certainly we have the legacy clients that I sincerely care for and want to check in on. And some I do, and some I know to leave alone. But I think in a way, an unintended way, my videos have served to keep me and the company name in front of people without it being, hey, hire us.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you like music? Do you love music? Okay, stupid questions. Here's the point. You can now hear conversations with some of the biggest music industry professionals around, including artists, songwriters, record company executives, recording engineers, and more. And it's my other podcast called The Music Makers. You can find it on your cell phone's podcast app or at themusicmakers.com. Again, that's The Music Makers. On this show, I've really tried to stay away from politics, except for a moment when Marcy was on the show. And I think you can imagine, we got into it for a few minutes and I could have really taken off. I was holding back.
Well, this morning I was like, you're not doing politics. You're not doing politics.
Well, but let's, in a different sense, I mean, I do feel a sense of hope now. I mean, we're going to have a change, and obviously we got to get through to January 20th. But I mean, are you feeling a sense of hope? Is that shifting?
Oh, certainly. I mean, certainly in the city, the last weekend was sort of an incredible moment. It felt like the city got a much needed sort of boost. And I think we are all hopeful that this new administration will step up and provide the federal guidance needed to get this pandemic under control and give us really a roadmap for reopening.
And even if it's not looking at your phone at CNN or BBC notifications of what did he do today?
Right.
The doom scrolling. Yeah.
Oh my God. I'm so much looking forward to just not being beat up every single day. And I think there's going to be something to that is also going to be very soothing, I imagine, as we move forward. When we move forward back into business, I mean, look, there's talk now of really good talk about a vaccine that should work. And, originally I didn't expect that for much longer. It might be a bit quicker. What do you all think that an eventual transition back to business is going to look like?
Christina's really good at this. I'm going to let her take it.
Well, for me, I think my personal opinion, I think the vaccine is fantastic. I'm hopeful for it. I think it's even more, again, not to get too political, I think I'm more prone to take it if it's this Pfizer one, because it's not involved with Operation Warp Speed. That feels like it's a bit more, it has been tested thoroughly. That said, for me, I don't believe the vaccine is necessarily the barrier for reentry. I believe it is accurate and available rapid testing that is going to allow us to have some sense of normalcy returning to the special event world. Being able to quickly test 100 people, 200 people who are arriving at an event, and all of the vendors who are there as well, and knowing with a certain amount of confidence that you are walking into that all of the ways in which the doubt has been reduced that has been done. Nothing is going to be foolproof. I think we know that. It's sort of like abstinence is the only safe sex, right? Like right. It's that same philosophy. You're going to take a risk when you gather, no matter what. That risk existed prior to COVID. With any number catching the flu or whatever. But in this way, I think by having ample, cost-effective, and accurate rapid testing is really our barrier for reentry.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
And, there's a couple more budget lines on the bottom line that we are going to have to consider for a really long time.
That's right. Yeah. Also, just before as we get ready to wrap up, I think about what is the event industry going to look like when we are back? Forget the transition. The events themselves, I wonder if they're going to really look different as a result of what we've all experienced. What do you think about that?
Oof.
We're just predicting, I know.
Yeah, I keep predicting and then have to go, oh, okay, never mind.
Right.
But look, humans are humans. They need to hug, they need to touch, they need to be close. And so we are all going to do everything we possibly can to bring that back. I don't see a way around it. Love is love is love is love. And humans need to be able to celebrate it. And we're going to figure it out. It may not be what we knew, but then again, there are people out there who are willing to take the chance. There are big things happening right now. I don't necessarily agree with it, and we are not participating in it, but it's out there because humans have the need. So what is the mother of invention? Necessity is the
right.
mother of invention.
Right.
And we got a lot of necessity, and who better than the events community to figure this out?
And I, for one, if I can just put the period on that, I, for one, am really excited to watch the ingenuity come out of this. I have said it before many a time, and I will say it here with you again. I believe there are no better problem solvers in the world than special event professionals. Full stop.
I love it.
And the really wonderful thing about problem solvers is that they have tremendous ingenuity. And much like the Renaissance evolved out of the plague, and granted, this is not the Black Plague. It's bad, but it is not that.
Limbs aren't falling off yet.
Right.
But it is out of the massive amount of death we've experienced, the massive amount of illness, the stress, the anxiety, the frustration. There will be a rebirth. That is the nature of human nature. And so I, for one, am excited to see how our community will bear that mantle and really be the leaders in that regard, because again, there truly are no better problem solvers in the special event world.
Jeez.
And special events will take on, not only life events like weddings and birthdays. You're going to need the special events community to gather people for everything.
Right.
And so the opportunities are going to be there in spades.
Yeah, I can't remember which one of you said it. Maybe you, Christina, or David. I can't wait just to be able to hug people again. Geez.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just basic human, like you said, the need. I can't wait for that.
Christina has an I at the end of her name, or a vowel at the end of her name. She needs to hug
It's been real hard. It's like kind of like for people who are physically affectionate, this has been like starving. I think I saw a Facebook post the other day that said, check on your huggers. And it's, and it's true. I mean, this has been depleting on so many levels, but again, I'm very hopeful and I remain positive and I remain a tenacious New Yorker. We will be back and I'm ready for it. Let's go.
And Andy, I did want to point out, she said depleted. I think a lot of people aren't used to being and living at this level of depletion because we're like, okay, we can just make this happen, especially in events. This is what we do. You just got to keep going. It is okay to trip up, slip up, let something go, stumble over something, forget something. It's okay. And you have to be able to forgive yourself because your brain has been occupied and is occupied and will be occupied for quite some time.
Right. Giving permission to ourselves.
Yes. And I think that's really important and a really big self-care issue. You can't beat yourself up for forgetting something.
Well, I think this is a perfect place to end this. I mean, David and Christina, I think the world of both of you. I love when you come on and we talk like this and just talk about what's really real. So thank you for today. Thank you.
Well, we haven't exactly had on our entertainment tap shoes today, but I think you do have to talk about this stuff and realize that everybody's in a different ship in the same storm.
Right. I love that. We're all on a different ship in the same storm. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're all out here and we're going to latch on, the lifeboats and lash them together and hang on.
Right. Well, thank you both again. This has really been wonderful. I feel hopeful. That's how this feels to me right now at this moment. I feel more hopeful.
You know what? You have to. Good. Because the world keeps turning. The world goes round and round, and it keeps turning, and it has been turning for long before we got here, and it will keep turning long after we leave. So, this is not the end of the world. This is just the beginning of a new chapter.
Right. Well, thank you, both of you. Take care.
Our pleasure. Thank you, Andy.
Bye, friend.
Thanks for listening to today's conversation with David Beahm and Christina Matteucci. Be sure to check out their website, which is davidbeahm.com. For social media handles, for David, it is at David Beahm, and for Christina, it is at Tucci Mama. All of this is in the show notes at theweddingbiz.com. And if you enjoyed it, please share it with your friends and colleagues so they can be aware of this wonderful conversation as well as the show. And if you really like it, also review it. That would help new people find the show. I want to mention next week's episode on Monday. Be sure to tune in. It is going to be my interview of Morgan Childs, who is a micro-wedding expert and more out of Hawaii. And finally, we want to thank our sponsor, Kushner Entertainment, and we'll catch you next Monday on The Wedding Biz.